A long tradition of courageous explorers, an astonishing mix of European and Arabic cultures, where the land ends and the sea begins. This is Portugal, and you're watching Hip World.
On my third day in Portugal, I decided to visit the historical part of Lisbon and its monuments, its Moorish neighbourhood, its famous patisserie and its typical music. On my last day, I went to have some fun on Portugal's beautiful sandy beaches and coastline. I then visited the most westerly point of continental Europe and one of the most dangerous cliffs in the world. The atmosphere of Quinta da Capella is magical, especially when waking up to such a peaceful environment which allows you to start the day in a very positive way. The hotel's guests can have their breakfast in the middle of nature and history at the same time, a powerful combination which is very difficult to find, even for frequent travelers.
Good morning! Well, it's my third day here in Portugal, and I'm sitting in one of the balconies of Quinta da Capella near Sintra. It's a beautiful day, and I'm digging into some breakfast because I really need the energy to spend the rest of the day in town. Now, we're not going to any town, we're going to spend the day in Lisbon, which is Lisboa in Portuguese. I've got to hurry up because I kind of overslept this morning. Finish my tea, and then we can go.
Lisbon, Portugal's capital, is only half an hour drive southeast of Sintra and is served by a modern motorway, so there I went.
Tower of Belém, built here between 1514 and 1521 by Francisco de Arada, here by the banks of the river Tagus. The Tower of Belém was used as a leaving point for the Portuguese navigators and explorers during the 15th century. Now, during this time, the Chinese and the Japanese weren't exactly on the best of terms and used the Portuguese, as you can say, the middleman, in order to trade silk. So without the Portuguese, our world wouldn't be as it is today. Not only was the Tower of Belém used as a leaving point for the explorers, but also as a returning one. Now, the minute they would see the tower, they knew they were finally safe and sound back at home.
Starting point of the navigators who set out to discover the trade routes, this Manuelan gem became a symbol of Portugal's great era of expansion. Originally, this bastion, which looks like the prow of a ship, was located at the medium of the river, so that the enemy boats, which entered the estuary, knew that the national fleet was ready to make fire. Throughout these centuries, Tagus River was silted up and the tower became an integral part of the shore. Situated a few steps from Belém Tower, the Navigator's Monument was built in 1960 for the 500th year celebration of Henry the Navigator's birth and commemorates the great age of Portuguese colonial discovery. Under the aegis of the great kings John II and Emmanuel, Portuguese explorers set out to chart and take possession of new lands in Africa, the Americas, and Asia. The finest ecclesiastical building in Portugal is the Convento dos Jerônimos, a Hieronymite convent and church founded in 1499 to commemorate the discovery of the sea route to India by Vasco da Gama. It was built of white limestone by João de Castilho, perhaps the greatest of Manueline architects. It contains the tombs of da Gama and the Portuguese poet Luís Camões. A number of seafarers have prayed in the chapel before departing to the unknown. Guys, I'm warning you. Now, to go to Lisbon and not eat pastéis de Belém is a crime, because they're that good you just want to keep eating them. The recipe of pastéis de Belém is the best guarded secret of Portuguese confectionery. No one knows it exactly, apart from those who work inside the factory, a cafe which has become a site of daily pilgrimage for the Portuguese as well as for tourists. Inside number 84 of the Rua de Belém, in this cafe, founded in 1837, you can also see azulejo panels from the 18th century, almost as famous as the sweet pastries sold here.
I'm sitting in one of the most oldest patisseries to be found here in Portugal. You can find different types of Portuguese cakes. The most famous is this one, the Patisserie of Belém. It's not just any kind of patisserie. They still use the original recipe, which was started in 1837. The best way to eat this, cinnamon. Yeah. Ooh. And then some sugar. And so it's warm. Inside you've got like a mixture of like eggs and cream and delicious.
Há fado que é cantado, há outro que é sentido.
The Lisbon of bygone days lives on in the Alfama, the most emblematic quarter of the city.
Há fado que é saudade.
The Alfama was the Saracen sector centuries before its conquest by the Christians. Dated to sometime 1100s, the name comes from Alhama. It's crowned by the old castle São Jorge. The devastating 1755 earthquake spared some of the buildings, and the Alfama has retained much of its original charm.
I'm here in Alfama, one of the most popular areas to come to if you're in the mood for fish. They've got a lot of fish happening here. Bonjour. Bonjour. As you can see, we've got different types of fish here. Pargo. Okay. Pescada. Sardinha.
Isto é polvo.
Wow. Octopus.
Por ser boêmio vadio, é como um navio.
You'll see narrow cobblestone streets, cages of canaries, strings of garlic and pepper adorning old taverns and street markets.
Portuguese cheese.
E o fado é assim.
So close together that in many places it's almost impossible to stretch your arms wide. Stevedores, fishmongers and sailors still occupy the Alfama. Kids playing, old women selling fish in front of their houses, armies of cats prowl in search of rats.
You? Okay. Lottery. Adios.
As you explore, you'll be rewarded with a perspective of the contrasting styles of the Alfama. visiting Alfama by foot, I decided to use the most popular means of public transport, the tramway. It's the charm of these brightly coloured vehicles that gives Lisbon all of its authentic appeal. The trams are a great way to see Lisbon, especially the number 28, which takes you through the old parts of the city. 2 million inhabitants live in Lisbon, the city of all contrasts. It is at the same time modern and old, with appearances of large metropolis and country village. The capital is the true link of Portugal with Europe. As far as history is concerned, 3,000 years ago, the Phoenicians were attracted to the site for its exceptional strategic location. The city was then successfully invaded by the Greeks, Romans, Visigoths, and the Moors. So, modernity and progress are much larger here than in provinces. Lisbon is a lovely, very livable city, and is one of the towns that has been able to preserve all the charms of its old city and the traditions and history that go along with it.
You're probably wondering where I am. I'm here at the Nations Park, which used to be called Exposition Park back in 1998 because the last World Trade Universal Fair was held here. There are cafes, bars, people walking. I can even see some people rollerblading, cycling. We've got the river on my left and a lot of exposition centres happening. I'm very lucky to be inside of it because apparently you can just keep walking and walking. So it's time to sit back and relax and enjoy this panoramic view.
The international exhibition, Expo 98, brought a new means of transport to Lisbon, the aerial cable car. The cable car gives excellent views of the site, the new Vasco da Gama bridge, which reaches 11 kilometers across the Tagus, as well as of the Vasco da Gama Tower. Although the Expo 98 events ended in September 1998, the cable car still operates. The site is now the home of the Feira Internacional de Lisboa, an exhibition space for industry and commerce. It has been renamed the Parque das Nações, or better known as the Nations Park.
Today, Lisbon. I can now officially say Lisboa. Tonight, Fado. What's Fado? You're going to find out later. But now, it's time for the docks. Yes, that's right. The docks is a new, funky, trendy place where all the young people come and hang out for a drink. And it's just situated by the bridge which crosses the river. And now, I think I'm going to go for a drink. What kind of drink? Come and find out. I was actually thinking of having port wine, the red wine that you usually have after dinner, but instead I've got white wine, which here is supposed to be drunk before dinner, and it's supposed to be cold as well. I'm gonna give it a go. Very sweet, and it's cold. Almond, Mona? Yes, why not? sitting here in one of the most popular restaurants set in the heart of Lisbon called the Senhor Vinho. Famous not only for its food, but I have to admit the fado music. That's one of the most popular assets for Portugal. It's a mixture of, I guess, a light operetta where you have a singer accompanied by a guitarist or someone playing on the viola. And what's important about fado is the fact that it expresses love, it's very nostalgic, and it even talks about Lisbon. What's important about fado music is the fact that the minute everyone starts playing, nobody, from the chefs to the waiters, and even myself, has got to be completely silent. So I've got to go whisper.
Feitas das ervinhas que apanhei no chão. Sou filha das ervas, nelas me criei, comendo as azedas, todas que encontrei. Atrás das formigas, horas que passei. Sou filha das ervas e pouco mais sei.
It's always very difficult to talk about fado. I think that fado is the people's song, and every Portuguese has it inside himself. I also think that the world believes that fado is exclusively Portuguese.
A noite negra deu-lhe Deus a cor, vestir de negro deu-me por condão, mas fado negro, negro fado não, porque o meu luto é sinal de amor. Eu visto negro porque tenho fé, eu visto negro porque creio em Cristo. Ai, negro, negro, por amor te visto, mas o meu fado negro não é.
Há tantos anos não tinha uma paixão por fado.
Long time ago, I didn't have a real passion for fado. It came to me as a passion a lot later. Fado is now my destiny, my life. When I was a child, my passion was playing with dolls like everybody else. But now, as I told you, yes, it is a big passion.
Mais tarde, uma grande paixão.
Amor que o vento como um lamento levou consigo, mas que ainda agora, a toda hora, trago comigo a moraria dos roxinóis nas beirais, dos vestidos cor-de-rosa, dos perdões tradicionais. Ai, moraria das procissões a passar, da severa voz saudosa, da guitarra a soluçar.
After this very moving experience of fado music, I went back to the hotel in a dream-like mood. Finding the way to my room, romantically lit with candles, made me feel quite spiritual and at peace with myself.
It's my last day here in Portugal, and it's raining outside, but it's not too bad, and I'm going to head towards the ocean. It looks quite misty and humid outside. Anyway, I'm going to finish my tea and then I'm off.
Going west of Sintra, after a mere 40 minutes ride by car, you'll reach the Atlantic coastline and its wild beauties.
The ocean! I have finally made it to the Atlantic Ocean. can really smell the sea, and the sound of the waves are just calling for me. It's huge, it's just so big. I'm completely speechless, and I'm very, very lucky because the sun is coming out finally, and I'm in a place called Asionos do Mar. It's a very, very popular place. Everybody comes here. It's just so breathtaking.
Azenas do Mar, situated in a picturesque valley, its white houses perched on the north slope, is one of the most appreciated and interesting beach resorts of Portugal, with swimming pools dug out of the rock and dramatic cliffs. The Atlantic coast, which forms the coastline for Sintra Mountain, is made up of magnificent rock cliffs and beautiful golden sand beaches, very sought after for the sun and the excellent nautical sport conditions.
Well, Portugal has a lot of sandy beaches, and this is one of them, Praia Grande. Now, a lot of surfers tend to come here, well, they love to come here all year round, not just the summertime, as well as families who come down from Lisbon for the weekend, perhaps. I've got my ice cream, I've got the sun, I've got my beach, and I'm not leaving.
Praia Grande is the largest beach in the Sintra area, with ideal conditions for windsurfing, surfing and bodyboarding. Actually, there's an international championship held here every summer. Walking along this beautiful, uncrowded beach, childhood memories were suddenly brought back to me, and I just couldn't resist but have some fun. And I'm sure you'd want to do the same, even if everyone starts to stare. From Praia Grande, I went south, and 20 minutes later, I reached the most famous cliff of continental Europe, the breathtaking Rocks Cape.
Cabo da Roca. Now, this is where the Atlantic Ocean meets Europe. To be more precise, the western part of continental Europe. Now, across the Atlantic Ocean lies New York. Can you believe that?
Cabo da Roca, a gorgeous landscape on the heights of the most westerly cliff in Europe. Thanks to its isolated geographical location, the mythical cliff of 160 meters has not yet been bombarded with tourist shops and snack bars. There are only 2 souvenir shops and a great restaurant. For €5, you can buy a certificate that proves that you've been at Europe's most westerly point. And why not? I'm on holiday, right? At the top of the point is a lighthouse which overlooks the unruly waters below. Cabo da Roca is often overrun with tourists in the high season, but it's definitely worth a visit.
This is to certify that I've been here at Cabo da Roca, the western point of continental Europe.
South of Cabo da Roca, after a 30-minute drive, you will arrive at Boca do Inferno, or Hell's Mouth, a spectacular but very dangerous cliff.
And I've got my last appointment with Portugal today, and I'm sitting by the Boca do Inferno, which translates as Hell's Mouth. Now, it's like a huge hole which would have been created by the sea, but this place would have been very, very dangerous if the weather was very stormy. But the fishermen sitting down below would and can still save people from drowning.
My name is Antonio Ramos and I am a full-time fisherman. I am also the president of the Cascais Fishermen and Boat Owner Association. Long time ago fishing was very difficult because there were no nets. and fishermen had only rowing boats. Today everything is better. Boats have engines and the right equipment. This eastern area is particularly dangerous because of the strong sea, which clashes with a very weak southwestern wind, causing sudden changes of waves. A lot of people died here. Rescue operations are mainly performed by fishermen, but this area still remains a very, very dangerous place.
I've come to the end of my trip here in Portugal. So as they say here, adeus. See you in the next tip world. Tower of Belém, built here between 1514 and 1521 by Francisco de Arada, here by the banks of the river Tagus. The Tower of Belém was used as a leaving point for the Portuguese navigators and explorers during the 15th century. Now during this time, the Chinese and the Japanese weren't exactly on the best of terms and used the Portuguese, as you can say, the middleman, in order to trade silk. So without the Portuguese, our world wouldn't be as it is today.
The finest ecclesiastical building in Portugal is the Convento dos Jerônimos, a Hieronymite convent and church founded in 1499 to commemorate the discovery of the sea route to India by Vasco da Gama. It was built of white limestone by João de Castilho, perhaps the greatest of Manueline architects. It contains the tombs of da Gama and the Portuguese poet Luís Camões. A number of seafarers have prayed in the chapel before departing to the unknown. After visiting Alfama by foot, I decided to use the most popular means of public transport, the tramway. It's the charm of these brightly coloured vehicles that gives Lisbon all of its authentic appeal. The trams are a great way to see Lisbon, especially the number 28, which takes you through the old parts of the city.
Portugal has a lot of sandy beaches, and this is one of them, Praia Grande. Now a lot of surfers tend to come here, well they love to come here all year round, not just the summertime, as well as families who come down from Lisbon for the weekend perhaps. I've got my ice cream, I've got the sun, I've got my beach, and I'm not leaving.
Praia Grande is the largest beach in the Sintra area. with ideal conditions for windsurfing, surfing and bodyboarding. Actually, there's an international championship held here every summer. Walking along this beautiful, uncrowded beach, childhood memories were suddenly brought back to me, and I just couldn't resist but have some fun. And I'm sure you'd want to do the same, even if everyone starts to stare.